Welcome, everyone, to Hello, Ernest at the Kitchen Table, connecting writers and readers. I am Jan Pratt, the author of several children's picture books and also the author of a series of yoga lesson plans for kids.
And I am Gaga Gabarty. I'm a co-author with Judy Lee Butler. Together, we write the Phoebe Cornell Mystery Series. Join us for every episode as we connect readers to your next great read. Hello out there to all of our listeners and watchers today. At the kitchen table, we have Janice Boekhoff. Janice, you're an author. Welcome to the kitchen table. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, and we appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your schedule there in Iowa to have a little bit of a conversation and kind of share with us the person's side of your being an author. So that's the intent of what we try to do here at the kitchen table. And so if you're ready, shall we get started?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right. What I'd like to do to kind of set the pace for our half hour together is ask you what inspired you to become a writer? Is it, there's lots of options in life, but you are a published author. How'd you get here?
Oh, it was the long road, actually, a roundabout road.
Yeah.
I always loved to read. And actually, when I was younger, I read a lot of Stephen King, who's a very good author, but caused a lot of nightmares. But yeah, so I had thought about being a writer when I was younger, but I also wanted to be a pop star, first woman president. I was always into science, so I wanted to be an archaeologist and all that kind of stuff. So I had a lot of dreams. And when I started going to college, my parents steered me more toward business, and I got a business degree first. And business was great, but it didn't really fulfill me. I was more of a wanderer, a curious type of person. And so I ended up going back to school to get a geology degree. And so I worked at the Iowa Geological Survey for about 5 years.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. It was a great job.
Yeah.
I loved it. But once I had kids, I ended up staying home with them. And since my husband made twice what I made, that was the best decision, was for me to stay at home.
Okay, I get it. I get
it. And I loved that time with my kids. I would not trade that for the world. But my brain got really bored. So my hands were really busy, but my brain was really bored. So I started handwriting, because I didn't have a laptop, in the carpool line. And so my first novel, which is yet to be published and probably won't ever be, was handwritten in the carpool line. And it was just so fun. And when I moved to the area that I'm in now of Iowa, I met another author who was like, hey, you should come to this conference. And so I started going to conferences and really understanding more what it meant to be a writer, and I just fell in love with it. I just loved it. It's, as people who are writers know, it gets kind of addictive. So if anybody out there ever wants to start writing, just know it can be addictive.
Yeah, that's your spoiler alert, huh?
Yes, that's my
It's
disclaimer. It's
your disclaimer, yeah. And that happens too. Well, interesting. You started writing, standing in the carpool lane, and you're handwriting everything. So your first book that you say no one will ever see, have it hidden somewhere? Is it stuck in a safe deposit box so that no one will open it until you pass on or something?
Well, it's in the storage area of my basement.
Okay.
I did type it out eventually, because I would handwrite it in the carpool line, then I'd come home and type it out on our computer at home. So it is actually technically on a computer somewhere, but I don't actually for sure if it's on this one or not.
Yeah, probably 3 or 4 computers ago, right?
So, yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
Well, so you're writing in the carpool line. So you meet someone, you go to a conference. Was there a magical event at the conference that took you from carpooling carpool writing over to publishing?
Yeah, I think it was really just the commitment. So when you write a book, you kind of are really insecure about, am I any good at this? Is this something that, because it does take a certain amount of talent to do something like that. But it really doesn't take that much talent, honestly. It takes a lot more work than talent. People think that you sit down one day and you write the great American novel, but really it takes a lot of work to learn how to write. And so I was in kind of that gray place of, do I have what it takes to be a writer, or should I just scrap this whole thing? Is it a waste of time? And I felt like at that conference that I went to, I was asking God that question. And I really felt like in one of our sessions that he really answered that for me, that he just gave me such a love for writing at that moment that I knew I just had to keep doing it. So yeah,
Wow, wow.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then
kind of an,
obviously to
yeah,
get published takes a lot longer than just that moment, but
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What a heartbreak after all this work and
Mm.
effort and editing, etc. And then it takes way more to hit that published criteria. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. So as you write, are you trying to convey any kind of a message to your readers? Do you want them to finish your book and have a takeaway from that?
That's a great question. I feel like my books, because of my faith, that my books always have an amount of hope in them. But something that's more personal to me that seems to come out a lot in my books is struggles with independence. I tend to be a very independent person. And for a long time, the idea of God who would know what's going to happen to me, know what I'm thinking, know what I'm going to do, it was really kind of intimidating to me because does that mean I have my own choices? Does that mean I get to be my own person? And it was a long road for me to realize and figure out that God knows who I am and he celebrates my independent personality and the person that I am. And he is there for me to lean on, to get input from. And I have a feeling a lot of the time he's rolling his eyes at me when I'm trying to go my own way, thinking,
Okay.
my way is a little bit better. So,
All right.
yeah, I feel like my novels really reflect that struggle of independence, like what is my desire versus the best thing for me or the best thing for me to do. So I think my novels reflect that a lot. And even though I
Okay.
write really different genres, I write Christian romantic suspense and general market science fiction. I feel like that struggle
Wow.
for independence comes out with both of those.
Yeah.
And even in my general market, where I don't mention God nearly as much as in my Christian romantic suspense books, I still feel like there's that thread of hope in there for people to try to identify with. Our world can be
Yeah.
so dark, and I feel like we do need to bring some light to the things. I need to bring some light to the things that I write. So,
Oh, yeah, sounds good. Uh, I think to have that kind of energy for your writing, and you're in a couple of different genres, how is it that you kind of harness that energy and buckle down and do the writing? Any tricks of the trade you want to share with us?
that is always hard to get your butt in the chair. And I happen to be an editor too. So sometimes I get caught up in other people's projects and then I'll avoid my own sometimes. And
Ooh,
so
yeah.
I can always tell after a week or so when I've worked so much on other people's projects and not my own, that I'm not as happy, I'm not as free. Writing really and this is why it's addicting. Writing really fulfills a place inside you that just really gives you such joy. And so if I feel like I'm missing some of that joy, I know I need to get my butt back in the chair and write. But of course, writing can be hard work too. So just sitting down and making myself available to write is part of it. And then also, not too long. So I think it was probably my third conference. It took me 4 or 5 conferences to find an agent and go on from there. But I think my second or third conference, I went to a workshop that was hosted by a man named Alan Arnold. And he's written a book called The Story of With. And that one was a life-changing conference for me because it really helped me to approach writing in a different way. I was writing busy for God. I was a busy bee writing for God, but I wasn't really inviting him into the process. So, and for those people who maybe aren't as religious, you can think of it as inviting your internal self to the writing process. But I wasn't really writing with God. I was just writing for God. And so when I started inviting him into the process, that really freed me up from some of the writer's block that people will get when they're just not sure what to put on the page. It freed up my inner critic, my inner editor that wants to change every single word that I try to write. And it really helped to make writing a life-changing process for me. So I change as I'm writing a book in the same way that my characters will change too. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned editing, and of course you are an editor yourself, and now you've got these writing projects going on. So what do you think about the editing and revision process? Do you have some conventional wisdom to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you my process, but I'll also tell you it's not the best process. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Usually running so far behind that I have my own editor. And so when I get my book done, I usually have about a week to look back over it, make sure it makes sense, and send it off to her. So it's a rough draft, but my rough drafts are pretty clean because I'm 15 years down the road. If you're a newer author, you definitely want to get a lot more editing, developmental editing. You definitely want to make sure that you're connecting with other authors and editors to help you along the process. But at this point in my life, I can write that first draft and send it off to her. And then when she gets back to me, I make the changes and I send that off to my beta readers. It really should be done the other way. That's why my process is kind of first. Like you should get it
Okay, all right.
enough time to send to beta readers first, and then send to your professional editor after that. So yeah, I'm still working on trying to get better on that process, getting done earlier in my writing. But
And here we are, folks, words from an editor on her editing. So good. Thanks for sharing that. Uh, what kind of editing? Are you talking line editing or grammar editing? What's your preference? What are you using on that?
yeah, I do it all. But my preference is developmental edits. I love to do
Okay.
developmental edits just because you can see a novel change so much from a developmental edit. Line edits are great and they'll teach you how to write better. And obviously everybody needs them. I still get line edits from my line editor. But I'm at the stage now where I don't need developmental edits usually. I can tell when a story is kind of going off the rails and I can corral it back. But especially early in the process, developmental editing is so important because you address the big picture things like the characterization, the plot, where the pacing is lagging, if you have a saggy middle, whether you're hopping from one point of view to another, what scenes might be missing, what things you're saying that you're basically what things you're telling that you should be showing, or what things you're showing that you should be just telling to make the pace move.
Okay.
So
All right.
those are all
Okay.
1,000 decisions that an author makes that maybe the best thing for their book, or maybe not the best thing for their book, or maybe it's a form of opinion too.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
I think it follows that the editing can really change what you have written. And so for aspiring writers, do you have any advice on that level?
On that level, I would definitely say be open to feedback. You really, there is just so much out there that you can take take as feedback that even is free. You don't have to pay an editor to get that feedback. Certainly if you're not paying an editor and you're just getting like beta readers and critique partners, that's a good basis and a good start if they have real common things that they're telling you. But obviously, when you're getting input from beta readers and from critique partners, they might be able to tell you something's going wrong, but they probably can't tell you exactly what it is or how to fix it. So that's where an editor will come in, is if you start to realize, okay, there's something that could be improved, but nobody can really tell me what the problem is or how to fix it. Maybe they can identify the problem, but then they don't know how to make it better either. So that's usually where your editor comes in. So a good developmental edit, some people call it a content edit, is very important when you're starting out. I got 2 big ones on my first 2 novels as I was starting out that really helped me to see, okay, this is where things need to be improved.
Yeah. And on a local level, any advice for writers that, what do you do within your community? Where can you get help or advice? Or you mentioned a critique session or a critique partner. Can you expand on that just a little bit for us, Janice?
Absolutely. You'd be surprised how even in your smaller local community, how many people are closetly writing a book. People are shocked by that, but they are. When I first moved to this community in, was it 2009, I had really started to decide that I wanted to write and I wanted other people to talk about that with. And there was not any local chapters of any other writing type groups in my area because this is Iowa and we're smaller. So I started my own. And it is still going to this day. I don't lead it anymore, but I started my own writing group, and I just invited people that I would meet at coffee shops, and they would tell their friends and they would tell theirs. Or if I did a speech at the library, people would come up and I'd be like, oh, come to my writing group if you're interested in writing. And some of them were more serious than others, but that's met my first critique partner, and she's still my critique partner to this day, even though she's moved out of Iowa. And she's coming in town next week, so I'm excited about that. But
fun.
yeah. So that's start your own. If you can't find a local writing group to join, hang out places where people are writing and invite them to come. It is important to really
I absolutely love that advice. In fact, that's how I got writing, was with a little local writing group that, of course, has now expanded with COVID. The one thing we learned is we do not have to co-locate. And the ccwriters.org is a great critiquing group, a great hobby writing, prompt writing, all of those things, a little bit of marketing on it. And it's just really expanded for a lot of people who are now writing professionally, who were hobby writers, just a few years ago. So yeah, that's always the takeaway. Find yourself a writing group. I love what you're saying about, hey, just start your own. If you can't find one, start your own. Don't let that be a roadblock to where you could go with your writing. And I think that's, the main thing. When we go back to the woman you met and then you went to a conference, did that really take you kind of over the wall and launch a career in writing for you?
Yes. I mean, when you go to a conference, it is an expensive investment and there's no guarantee of results for sure. But it is one of the best places to meet agents and editors. Now, there's so much more online now than there was, because this would have been more than 10 years ago. There's so much more online now than there was before. So you can get agents interested in you through submissions and that kind of thing. So you don't have to do this, but it's still a really good way to meet personally and make a connection with an agent or an editor. And usually if you show them a sample you're writing and they're somewhat interested, they'll ask to see like a synopsis or a proposal, and you can send them your stuff and see if they're interested. So that's how I
Great. I wanted to touch a little bit on character development. You mentioned that a few minutes ago, and do you have any thing that you're trying to do with your characters that is kind of a guiding principle, a thread throughout all of the novels you've written?
Yeah. I tend to be, so I'm a pantser, which if people don't know what that means, it means that I typically write by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
just, yes, just kind of come up with what sounds good to me in the moment.
Whatever works. Sure.
Yeah. And sometimes it's the right thing, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I have to revise out some things, but I'm a pantser who wants to be a plotter. Like I'm in my normal life, in my editing life, I'm very, I'm very detail oriented in those things. And I like lists, I'm a list maker. I want to
Oh,
be a
okay.
plotter, and I tried so hard to be a plotter, but I can't do it in my writing life. So, so essentially what this means for me is that I'm a plot driven pantser. So I really enjoy plot, and my characters basically get molded by that plot. So when I start with a character, I don't usually even know for sure what their backstory is, what they do. I might have a profession if it needs to be based on the plot. And I'm not even sure what their family looks like. I don't know what their personality is exactly, maybe a rough idea. And then as they are thrown into the events of the plot, and I test how they react to these things, they become a particular character by the end of the book. What that means is that
Okay.
I usually have to revise the beginning of the book quite a bit because they didn't start out that way.
Okay.
Yeah. But for me, character development is all about finding out who that character is in those situations, so it's a little bit more organic. Um, but I have friends that I wish I could be like this. I have friends who have dossiers over their entire characters, and they'll know
Wow.
everything about their character before they start writing. And for them, that really informs like where they want the plot to go based on how they want to show that character's personality. And for me, I've
Okay.
realized it's pretty much the opposite. The more I try to buckle down all these little details about these characters, the less I can visualize them in my head, that it really works better for me to find out who they are more organically. So yeah.
Wow, interesting. And I think it's really fascinating that you are a list making person, but
Mhm.
you're a pantser. You're writing by the seat of your pants. So
Mhm.
that's, a 180 from
Yeah.
being a list person.
Yeah. So your
Good.
process may have nothing to do with how you're wired in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, yeah, and that's great advice for people who are trying to get started on writing, or maybe are wondering how it would all come together.
Mhm.
And the advice that you might be a list person, but you can write by the seat of your pants. It's okay. And I
Yeah.
think that is the takeaway is it's okay. It's whatever works for you, is what I
Yes.
hear you saying. Okay.
Exactly. There's a million ways to write a book, and there's been a million books written about how to write books. So you really have to work on finding what works for you. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that is the problem today. There's a million words, probably a million words a day being written, maybe not published, but being written. And how do you get into that? I think that's a tough one. That's
It
a tough
is
one.
that is always the struggle for everyone who writes, is how to make your work be seen, especially now that we've got a lot of ebooks. Ebooks are easy to put up, and some of them are going to be better quality than others. Obviously, if you're a professional writer, you're striving to make your book the best that it can be. But it's hard to make them stand out. The best advice I can give on that type of thing is to make sure that you're writing the stories that are changing your life. Because if they're changing your life, then they're going to change the reader's life too. They're going to pick up on
Yeah,
that
yeah,
when you're writing. If you're writing to entertain yourself, if you're writing to make yourself laugh, or to delve into a deeper issue that you're unsure about, or you're writing to bring out something that you just feel needs to be expressed to other people. I mean, if you are writing so that you are invested in those books and that you're being changed by them, then other people will be too. And those are the books where people are messaging you saying, hey, when's the next one coming out? I need to know. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I
And
think
that's
that to write what
yeah,
is going to change people.
right.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I hear you say that it changes you as well in
Mhm.
that whole writing process, and then going back and maybe rewriting a bit of the character development on it and some of those things. So interesting how that works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's another spoiler alert. Boy, you're really giving us a lot to go on today. So that is good. I like this. Um, I think another question I have that I think people are interested in is what about your motivation? How do you stay motivated? You've gotten a couple of genres going now, but how do you stay motivated?
I think that you stay motivated by basically helping to work with your process. So like if you're the person who loves to create characters and loves to write down dossiers of characters and all that kind of thing, you follow your joy. And I think that helps to keep you motivated. For me, I tend to be a spurt writer. I can sit down and write for a couple hours and then I need to get up and do something else. Yeah, like my creative
Okay.
juices are gone at that moment. Fortunately, I can get up
Okay.
and go edit. Yeah. I can usually get up
Yeah,
and go edit, which is good, but that doesn't take
sure.
as much of my creative juices to come out. But and then I can usually come back to it later, maybe later that same day, but usually the next day. And I find that things work out best for me, given that I'm a pantser when I do that, because I'm giving my subconscious, my creative part, a chance to breathe. And then I come back the next day and I can write from a different perspective. And maybe I go a different direction than I would have gone the day before that
Oh,
I didn't
yeah,
see
yeah.
the day before. So I think it's important to also give yourself some of that space to know how,
Sure.
and also, I think that it's important to make sure that you take it seriously, that you get that butt in the chair so that even if you're not feeling like it, you have to try to be there every single day. Um, if I can write for a couple hours and say, well, I'm done for the day, but if I need to get more words on the page, I can also push through a little bit longer and keep going a little bit longer. So I think you really just have to make sure that you're taking it seriously. It's so easy to
Yeah.
say we'll do it tomorrow or the next day and let other things overwhelm that time frame. So, and also, oh, I wanted to mention this too. One of the best things that a girlfriend told me the other, like a couple months ago, to try that I have implemented into my life that I absolutely love as a writer is 1 hour a week of idea time. And that
Oh,
means that you're not trying to write anything, you're not trying to brainstorm anything in particular, that you sit down and you just have idea time and like let everything that you think that you might want to write sometime come out. If you do have a particular project that you need some brainstorming help on, you can do some brainstorming or you can do some marketing brainstorming. To just have an hour a week dedicated to I just want to come up with new ideas regarding my writing, whether that's new book
wow.
ideas or new, I've plotted a whole nother series in like 2 of those hours a week. And I haven't written it yet, but
Wow.
we'll get there. But,
Okay.
but
Yeah, yeah.
and that probably wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have dedicated that time to do that, because you get so into the projects you're currently working on that you don't even have time to think of the next one that's coming. And it also has helped me a lot with marketing too, like new ideas for, how to reach people and to just sit down and make sure you have time to let the ideas flow.
Yeah. I like that. You saw me take a note on that
Okay.
idea time. I think that's real valuable, and for a lot of authors, it's tough to come up with where am I going? What's the future look like for my writing?
Mhm.
Who wants to think about that? I just want to get this project done, right?
Mhm. Exactly.
But you also mentioned marketing, and I think that is key for a lot of us. I mean, I'm not sure where it's all going to go. However, I can be thinking about my marketing and just put some time aside to think about and brainstorm with myself. I have a lot of great ideas when it's by myself. When I partner with someone else, maybe not so much, maybe not so great, but
Mhm.
at least I've got, some ideas coming out of me. And so I think that would really help. So good. Thank you for that. That is another spoiler alert idea time. So that works. We had a ton of these things from you, and I thank you for that. Well, our time is about up, and
Okay.
I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing with us a bit of a read from maybe is this your most recent book, Crevice?
No, this is my first book.
Your first book,
Very first
okay.
book,
Not the
yeah.
one that's not published yet,
No, not
right?
the one that's not published.
Okay.
This is the one that
All
is
right, so
published.
that helps. Yeah, that's
Yes, my
good. I
very
like that.
sorry,
That was,
excuse me. My very
you're
first
good.
published.
That one, your first book is under lock and key, so that's in
Yeah,
storage. So
that one is
this
done.
is your first published book. Do
Yeah.
you can you show us the book,
I
what
can
the
show
cover
you,
looks like?
this is the wrong cover currently. So this is the cover that it originally was published with. They have rebranded it to show that it's a little bit more romantic suspense. So this
Okay,
cover is very suspensey, but the new
yeah,
cover is romantic suspense, and I don't have a copy of
okay,
that.
all right,
So they've just
okay, all right,
so
okay.
yeah,
Well, at least if we run into any old copies, we'll know what to look for, so that helps.
exactly.
All
Yes.
right, yeah, we've
But
got a
online
couple
it'll show
minutes.
you the new copy, but
All right, so
okay,
we've got a couple minutes. Go ahead, Janice.
great. Okay. Ellery risked a peek at her father. He still had his hands behind his back. His eyes were focused on her, probing her in that human lie detector way every father could. Please, tell me the truth, Ellery. Come on, Dad, why all the questions? He ground his teeth together before answering. I know Garrick's in trouble. No more lies. Her eyes went wide, but how could he know? Had Lucan also told someone about Garrick, or had her father found out from the sheriff? A defeated sigh escaped from her lips. Lucan has been helping me search for Garrick. I didn't tell you because I have nothing to tell. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's hurt or if he's still hunting for the mine and isn't ready to come back. Her father frowned and whipped his hand from behind his back, thrusting a paper at her. Well, now we know. This was stuck to the front door. The front door? There wasn't anything there when she'd come home. She took the paper, quickly reading the typed words. Your brother is safe, for now. Find the mine and leave a map of its location in the Hearst stone mailbox by Wednesday evening, or you can search for pieces of your brother spread all across the desert. I will know if you contact the police. Ellery sucked in several deep breaths as adrenaline flooded her system. She stumbled back, leaning hard against the counter. Garrick wasn't just missing. Someone had taken him.
Very nice. Now what's going to happen is my thought.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, thank
Thank
you for
you.
being with us today. We so appreciate it. We'll be releasing all of this in the upcoming weeks. And for all of our listeners and watchers out there, want to thank you for joining us today at the kitchen table, Janice Boekhoff. Thank you so much. Enjoyed it. I think
Thank
that's it for
you.
now.
Thank
All right. Have a great day. Goodbye for now. Thanks for listening to this informal conversation with today's author.
Join us next time as we connect writers and readers around the kitchen table.